the inequality gap between African nations and the West is amplified by technology, right? We are currently trying to catch up. When AI is introduced, those who have access to power and data are going to speed ahead, and we are going to get even further left behind.
We know where India stands when it comes to the genocide of Palestine. I don't know if you've seen videos of Indians going, quotation marks, Israel, occupied Palestine, and being like, we're here to support you. And the Israelis are like, go home, go back to where you've come from.
Enterprising season, no more money missing. People talking, the leaders listen.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live episode of the Ronu Spirit Podcast. And what we're going to be doing on this particular episode, myself and Sumaira, is going through the last 3 episodes that we released on YouTube and just trying to understand what exactly it is we learned from it, and then engaging with anybody that might be watching or listening in the comment section and having conversations with the people.
By the way, it's YouTube and Spotify in terms of people wanting to access the podcast and listen to it.
Yes, they can access it on YouTube, Spotify, but they can also do it on Apple Music as well.
See, I'm very anti-Apple. I don't associate,
Why?
I just never have.
Okay. And to be fair, this is just the beginning stages. This is just us doing it and putting it out there. What's the word I'm looking for? Startup styly, entrepreneur styly. So
I like that.
By that, what I mean is we're literally just making it up as we go along and fixing it and building as we grow. Let's just see what happens. Anyways, let's continue.
Should we wait until there's a bit of momentum, or
On a bit of momentum where?
as in if people are engaging, if Charlie's going to return?
I think he did. I think it's working. Charlie came back. Charlie said what happened. Yep, it's working. It's just delayed. Okay, so YouTube is working. YouTube is the most important thing. The Instagram guys are second-class citizens.
No, we don't do class. Thank you very much.
Fine. We are back. Charlie said what happened. We are back, Charlie. That's what happened. I messed up the live.
Are you doing laughing gas?
What'd you say?
Charlie said, are you doing laughing gas?
Oh, because he thinks this is a balloon.
Is it?
He probably thinks this is a balloon. But yeah, anyways, it's fine. Okay, do you know what's funny about when I said that the Instagram people are second-class citizens and YouTube is where it's at, and you said we don't do classes? It reminded me of something that Viv mentioned recently about Black AI Futures. So Black AI Futures, for those that don't know, is a new initiative that we are working on in the UK. And it's basically trying to get more people from the global Black and African community to build and own products in the AI space, because this is the new arms race. Like, I truly believe that, and it is the future, and we need to be building, we need to be taking part in it. Otherwise, the inequality gap is only going to get higher. We're going to get left behind a lot more and blah, blah. Anyways, in that, Viv mentioned, and I also agree with this, that we need to maybe have women leading in this AI space. And why do you think that is, Sumaira? What do you think my reasoning is for thinking that maybe it would be better if women were leading in the AI space?
So you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
And this is your space. I think in terms of female leadership, like, even if we look at it from a political perspective, the qualities women have in leading is far more different to men.
The qualities women have in leading. And what qualities do you think I'm talking about?
I think, well, to be honest, it would also depend on many other factors, but like maybe seeing things outside the box. And because women are usually left out in a lot of these spaces, when you've got a woman's voice in it, it's, if you're thinking about a woman, then you're also thinking about other people, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, that's a good point. And from my perspective, this might be very generalistic. And but what I am thinking is a reason why we would have women in this space is because women tend to care more about people. They're not so narrowly focused on things, and like they are more aware of people. And if there is a complaint or a issue with the way AI is going right now, is the fact that it's just focused on things. It's just people expanding on what they can do with the technology and trying to move the technology forward so quickly and achieve whatever it is they need to achieve. Obviously, we live in a capitalist system that is basically incentivizing us to put profits before everything else. So the people that are driving AI forwards are driving AI forwards for the purpose of profits, for the purpose of the capitalist system. And I was thinking, if we had women leading, women in charge, for some reason, and I know this might be generalistic, but I feel like women in general are more in tuned to society and what human beings want. And they wouldn't be so narrowly focused on just the profit. You know, some of them would think, actually, what about the people? And should we try to make sure that this is also beneficial for people as well? So that is an interesting point that, at least in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know if it's true, but I feel like women are more caring for the people. Like they care about what people think. They care about human relationships. So if they were leading the AI charge, they wouldn't just be putting profits. They wouldn't just be doing what the system incentivizes. They will also be caring about, you know, the people that are being hurt as well.
I think that's interesting. And if we're thinking about empathy as a quality or care, potentially, I see where you're coming from. I hear you. But I also just think it depends on someone's integrity and level of ethics as well. It depends what kind of women who go into those kind of roles who then care about the people. Yeah, of course.
Definitely.
You made the point that it's a bit general. The statement is a bit general, but I hear where you're coming from. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I think,
anyway,
yeah, even politically, like, you know, if we look at female leaders.
Do we have female leaders in the world right now? And if so, where? Let's Google it. Female leaders.
I know somewhere in the Netherlands region or whatever, there's this focus on a 4-day week led by a young woman within the parliament.
Several prominent women currently hold significant leadership positions around the world. In examples, this is Gemini. Can we really trust Gemini? It says Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy. Really? The Prime Minister of Italy is a woman? Prime Minister of Denmark? That's the one you were talking about, right?
I think so.
Lithuania. Go on. Okay. Yeah. What point were you trying to make around that? Sorry.
No, I was just saying, if we were to, obviously not looking at it from an evidence-based or stats perspective, but if we're thinking about female leadership and then we're looking at leadership within governments, I do tend to see a lot more positive outcomes or, I don't know, campaigns from women.
Positive campaigns from women.
Yeah.
Is that just biased though, do you think? Do you think in general?
I don't know. I feel like
is there data about
women
it?
would communicate and not just there'll be less wars.
Is that true though? I mean, what you've just said right now is like a age-old argument.
I know, but that's the same thing you're saying about AI as well, I suppose.
Yes. I'm saying, but yeah, I'm saying it about AI because I know that right now they don't really care about the impact this is going to have on society. And they can't care about it because they are operating under a system that forces them to prioritize the money and how much money that will be made. Unless there's something internal that forces them to care about this, you know, the impact that this is going to have on society, they're not going to do it. And people in the Silicon Valley, they live in a real bubble. Like, it's just very, you know, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just very real.
I hear you, I guess, because it's a man's world. If we're thinking about it, when women are in powerful positions or in leadership positions, I guess they consider beyond just the male lens on what we should be doing in life because they're considering lived experiences. So like when they're petitioning for maternity leave or something to do with women's health, then obviously it's likely a woman is going to do that and campaign for that over maybe a man in government. Like, for example, America and Rhodes, you know.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you seeing my screen right now? Women's equal participation, leadership, blah, blah, blah. However, data shows that women are underrepresented at all levels of decision making. Yeah, we know that. I'm just trying to find out if there's any data that says they are better at leading countries. Women are better at leading countries than men. Survey respondents say, what is this? 2022. Is this real? US News. India had the largest share of respondents agreeing that countries led by women are better managed. Oh, India. That's where you're from, Sumaira. Which is an interesting phenomena, isn't it? Because India, don't they have like issues with, don't they have issues with this?
You mean like the entire world in a way, but just...
Yeah, the entire world.
Yeah,
but also,
exactly.
Yes, but also India can be quite...
Go on, just say it. No? Yeah. I mean, like which other cultures, if we put it in comparison to a lot of collectivist cultures, isn't there a hint of that anyway?
Oh, Charlie says Silicon Valley was a mistake. Charlie also says Barbados. So Julia says Namibia and Tanzania have female leaders currently. They have recently met and it was very interesting. Oh, I didn't know that. And Charlie said Barbados too. Barbados also has female leaders. Namibia and Tanzania have female leaders. I did not know that. Okay, sorry, what were you saying, Sumaira?
Sorry, I'm just reading what Charlie's saying. It's true, taking the class of these women into account. Yeah, absolutely. I think intersectionality is really important when we're thinking about identities generally as well, because it will all depend on the intersecting of identities. how somebody would consider or not consider things. I think the thing about anything to do with human behavior is that you're not going to get a black or white answer. It's going to be nuanced. But yeah, we somehow have gone into this, but this is supposed to be a podcast live recap kind of our 3 episodes. I'm just very aware of that.
Yes.
And obviously we have Julia and we have Charlie, interested to know if they've listened to any of the 3 podcasts that we're hoping to explore, which is the one with Paul Anderson, the one with Peter, is it Kolade, and Kother, the counseling psychologist.
Yes, indeed.
I believe Kother is now a doctor, by the way.
Is
I'm
she?
sure I saw it on social media. Yeah, I think she passed her Viva. So congratulations,
oh my God.
Kother.
Congratulations, Kother. I didn't even know. Oh my God. How did you see it on social media and I didn't?
I'm sure on LinkedIn.
How do you see it on LinkedIn and I didn't? Let me just check. Kother. See, I just want to see if she's really... Oh my God, she is! Oh my God.
I thought I saw it.
This is so cool. Dr. Kother Ali. Oh,
Congratulations. Welcome to this side.
I should change the title of that episode and put doctor in front of her name for everything.
Yeah, why not? It's really difficult to get a doctorate. It's very intense, so she deserves it.
100%. Julia says, I don't think you can find actual data about women being better. There are still too few references. And also, it's always a teamwork when combining male and female qualities giving the best results. This is true. I agree with that. And Charlie says, India has a domestic violence issue, not to downplay it, but the world also has this issue. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, there's been lots of news from India in the past that has made international headlines based on domestic and sexual violence. Very unfortunate. Yeah.
I didn't know you could do this. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Like, look at that. We're just showing everyone's comments. So as I'm reading it, actually, I could be clicking on it and showing it. That's so cool.
And I also think a lot of people, like, who's understudied? If we think about a lot of what we base our knowledge on, a lot of the people being studied are like white men. Whether it comes to medical diagnosis, women are left out or, like you said, very secondary. So I don't think anybody has prioritized that kind of research at the moment. But if we go to our first episode or for today's live, Paul Anderson.
Let's do that.
Yeah, it's been a while since that episode.
So long.
Yeah, exactly. And it was predominantly focusing on empowering Black youth. And he was talking about his own social justice.
In the UK.
Yeah. In the UK, but he was also speaking about his work. And I don't know if you have any recollections or any reflections on that particular episode with Paul that really stood out to you.
The main thing I remembered from the podcast with Paul was the fact that Paul went back to Nigeria. And before he went back to Nigeria, I think he said he was getting in trouble with the law, with the police. And he went back to Nigeria. He really found a sense of home, a direction where he belonged and everything. And he really found a sense of home, basically. And when he came back, I think that's when things started changing for him. I think that was the main thing that I remember from that particular episode.
Yeah. I think one of the highlights from that podcast was him focusing on ancestry connection and how important it is and how sometimes we might dismiss our culture because we're living in a very individualistic society and a lot of us come from collectivist cultures and there's a lot more context to our culture. And by going back home and exploring that, you might be able to connect more and then also want to explore its history, for example, or the nuances of your identity in the West. So he gave an example of like names, like, you know, how important our names are in our cultures and what that means, but not necessarily having an understanding of that before he went back to Nigeria.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And the other thing, although this is Hameed, you're learning, how important representation is in all walks of life, being able to see people like you in certain spaces.
I don't remember that. Explain that. Because all I can think of, what I think of is the story that he told when he went to the barbershop and he got his hair cut and he left the barbershop and I think was his auntie or something was like, where's your hair? And then she had to take him back to the barbershop to pack up his hair because they were afraid that, you know, they could do something with the hair. I remember that story from that particular podcast. That was funny.
How was it? I don't actually remember that story.
See, we remember things differently.
Of course. I remember mentioning something about one of my colleagues from Ghana training with me and seeing a Black psychologist for the first time in a lecture on a doctoral program and how much in awe he was of this Black psychologist, male psychologist, and how till today I still also get that in whether I'm supervising or lecturing, like, oh, we haven't seen a South Asian psychologist before, or I haven't been supervised by one before. So I guess from that, we were talking about how important representation is, seeing other people in spaces that you also aspire to be in, or to be connected to people who have certain aspirations.
100%.
But yeah.
That episode was a long time ago.
Yeah. He was saying there's not many provisions for the Black community in the UK. Just generally, he was talking about the pipeline.
Oh, the school to prison pipeline.
School to prison pipeline.
That's a real thing.
System of failure, right?
I think after that episode, I actually Googled it and I saw that there's actually a correlation. Wait, hold on. School to prison pipeline in the UK. School to prison pipeline is a term describing the concerning trend where school disciplinary policies and practices such as blah, blah, can lead to increased involvement with the criminal justice system, particularly from students in marginalized communities. Okay. I think I saw an actual statistic about this that, oh man, I've forgotten what it was, but they said like how they calculate how much room, I don't know if this was in the States or if this was in the UK, but how they calculate how much room or how much prison cells they would need in the future is by calculating how many kids don't do well in school, something like that. It was something very insidious and sinister. And I'm trying to find that statistic because I feel like it'd be so interesting to find out where it's from. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I said, it was quite a long time ago. And the only reason, like I, went through the little recaps on Instagram. So it's not my memory fully. Anyway, I could have kept that to myself. But before we move on to the next episode, I guess, because we always ask our guest if there's anything that they would really encourage people to do, whether it's here or how does it impact Africa. Is there anything from that episode that you took away for yourself and applied, or would really encourage your listeners to think about or consider?
I'd say the main thing that I took away from that particular episode would be I can focus on the thing and I kick stop. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? Oh, I have issues. Oh God.
Should we change her name to Sumaira? See the last comment.
No, I didn't.
So should we change her name to Sumaira?
Oh yeah. Oh, this is so frustrating. Why do I do this to myself?
Hameed, play with the orange ball you've got and stop fidgeting.
Anyways, yeah. So your question was, did I take anything away from that particular episode? And anything that I would want to share with the people, Dems? And the answer is yes, I did take something from that particular episode. And it was just that, once again, the main thing that stood out for me for that episode is that when he went back to Nigeria and he found a place and he found a home and he found like a culture that he belonged to, that he's from, it did something to him that changed the way things were going. And I think I said it during that episode as well. We should be able to make sure that young Black and African people from the UK are able to go back home and explore life in Kenya, in Nigeria, in any of these countries and just see how things are. So, yeah, I would say that's the main thing I took away from it. Yeah.
I think there's something about connecting to your heritage that is really important. There are a lot of people who live in the West who have never gone back home. I mean, I haven't been back to India since I was 9 years old. But
really?
I did go twice. Yeah.
No, like have you really never not been back since 9?
I think I went when I was 8 and then 9. I haven't been back since. I would like to go, but I would like to go for a longer period. So it's not something I can do right now. But
That's so interesting.
But also remember, like,
because you travel all the time.
Yeah, we've always spoken about, like, for me, I don't have a majority home. As an Indian Muslim woman, I'm a minority here in the UK, but I'm also a minority in India. And Islamophobia is on the rise in India. Obviously, I would love to go back. India is a really big country, and I just don't want to go back to where my parents are from. I would like to explore it a bit more. Yeah, I went to Sri Lanka, which was not too far from India. There's a lot of overlaps. It reminded me of home recently.
Can we discuss that a little bit? Why do you think Islamophobia is on the rise in India?
I mean, it's all based on governments, isn't it? It depends on who is leading. I mean, to be honest, I don't engage in, this is probably a protective mechanism, engage in Indian politics as much because I just think there's so much more happening. I mean, to be honest, it's all interlinked. I shouldn't say that. But I know Modi, for example, the current prime minister, he's actually from Gujarat. That's where I'm from. I'm Gujarati.
But he doesn't like Indian Muslims, so does he?
No. He believes that India's for Hindus. It's the whole right wing.
That's something that the British started, right?
I mean, we can say that because prior to Britain coming into the country, we coexisted, married into each other's, I don't even think religion was an issue back then, adopted each other's like religious culture as well. Because obviously we all have our Indian culture and then we have regional culture, but also our religion. Because, there's Sikhs, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Baha'i faith. There's so many different cultures and religions there. Yeah, so Britain started it off, divide and conquer.
And we're still seeing the repercussions of that today, or?
Yeah, but I think in particular with this government, there's something that's shifted. Because I remember growing up, or like in the more recent years, like for example, when it comes to Eid, we sacrifice a ram, a sheep or goat, or, whatever. I think that's actually banned. Like you can't do that openly.
In India. And I think a bit like wherever we grow up or how Islamophobia is manifested in other countries, it's the same in India. But what people see is that, the unemployment rates in India at the moment have declined thanks to Modi. Well, but what about everything else? And obviously we know where India stands when it comes to the genocide of Palestine. And literally, I don't know if you've seen videos of Indians going to, quotation marks, Israel, occupied Palestine, and being like, we're here to support you. And the Israelis are like, go home, go back to where you've come from. And there's so much resistance. And I'm just shaking my head because I'm like, I am Indian, but I'm not this kind of Indian. Have you not seen it? Have you not seen the videos? I haven't seen videos like that.
Yeah, there've been people even online just showing their support. And literally, if I was speaking, if I wasn't watching, basically begging it when it comes to showing their support for Israel. But what is it rooted in is actually Islamophobia, because they're thinking Palestine Muslims rather than them seeing it as Palestine also has different faiths. There's Palestinian Christians, Palestinian Jews, Palestinian Muslims, Palestinian atheists probably.
India does have a pro-Israel.
Yeah, but I don't think historically they did. And if you look at the research historically, I don't think they did. I think they were an advocate of Palestine once upon a time. But if you think about it, obviously you've got Kashmir, which is stateless. People are fighting for Kashmir, India and Pakistan. So there's a lot of history and a lot of learning to do. But Hameed, when did you go back to Nigeria?
What kind of question is that?
No, because I thought we'll move on to the next episode, but I just wanted,
Yeah, so firstly, you're right. India does have a pro-Israel stance. That's a shame.
Imagine this guy's fact-checking because he doesn't believe me.
No, I'm not fact-checking. This is for the audience out there as well. I feel like the better we do this, the higher the quality of the conversation, maybe. Why is India's Hindu right pro-Israel? Hindu nationalists would like to emulate Israel. They would like to create... Okay, so basically that's the main reason. They want to get rid of all the Muslims in India. Even though before the British came, Indian Muslims and Hindus were just like living and doing their thing and there was no issues, right? It reminds me of Nigeria. It's the same in Nigeria. I don't know how many Yoruba people, but a lot of the Yoruba people that I'm sure they have Muslims in their family. They have Christians in their family. Yeah. It's not we have religion and then we have our culture. And the two can merge. And it is not a divisive situation. I have Christian cousins. My siblings are Muslims. Obviously, I have Muslim cousins too. And at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. I suppose it's because of the Pakistan-India thing that the British did.
British colonization. But also I think this you can check. But I think there was something about if you are Muslim and you date a Hindu, I don't know if there were repercussions like prison or you would have to run away. Just recently, yeah.
Let me check that.
Yeah, you can check that.
Is it not allowed?
Whether it's legal, illegal, or if it's just something that's frowned upon, but there's definitely an issue now.
So where do you think this is going from your perspective with this? I don't even know what you'd call this. What do you call it? This divisive policy that India has. Where do you think it's leading the country towards?
I mean, you saw what it said in the article.
What did it say in the article?
They want to replicate what's happening.
Basically, it's leading to ethnic cleansing if we're not careful.
I mean...
What about the Sikhs though? Wait, aren't there Sikhs in India?
There's Sikhs. There's lots of different religions. India is a very big country.
So what about the rest?
But I think there is this particular hatred towards Muslims specifically. But maybe we could get a guest who can talk about this in a bit more detail and how it kind of overlaps when we're thinking about what's happening in Palestine, but also somehow connecting it to Africa too, because I'm sure there is. Because there's obviously a lot of Indians migrated, right, to Africa. There's a lot of Kenyan, Ugandan.
You said Kendians. Kendians.
Sorry, Kenyan Indians or East African Indians. But anyway, I believe we did speak to someone in an upcoming podcast about this a little bit. Do you
Yes,
remember?
yes, we did.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
did. But we didn't go into enough
I
detail.
know we didn't.
We didn't experience it completely like I wanted to experience it.
Exactly. But moving on.
Before we do, Charlie did say India has a similar experience to Palestine in terms of colonialism. Why do you think it hasn't translated into sympathy for Gaza? I would say my answer to that is simply because their experience is the British succeeded in making Indians their own enemies. Because let's be honest, India and Pakistan, and they're not the same people.
What, before the split, before the partition?
Yeah, really
Not
said.
only Pakistan, Bangladesh too, by the way. Let's not forget.
Okay,
Yeah.
exactly.
A
So
lot of Pakistanis and Bengalis don't know, or like Bangladesh was Pakistan before it was originally India.
Bangladesh was Pakistan.
Yeah,
before it
Pakistan
was
during the
India.
partition. There's Pakistan, and what's now Bangladesh and has its own independence was Pakistan too. They were given those two. Like, these are for the Muslims, and yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the reason, right? I mean, in my opinion, that's why India doesn't have sympathy for Gaza, because they've bought into the Kool-Aid that the white man sold them, which is that you are your own enemy.
But I guess that's where, like, there's a lot of impact of colonization, like even to the basics of like the fairer you are, the prettier you are. There's a lot of Western standards that continue. Like, for example, even the way psychology is practiced and a lot of education, it's like what the West say is gospel, kind of, you know? For example, even now in the West, we're talking about psychology and the decolonization, again in quotation marks, but like there it's very much science. So yeah, there's a lot. I wonder if Kenyan Indians call themselves Kindians, you know, because if they don't.
Yeah.
I was just going to move forward. The reason, like, obviously for Paul, it was a huge, significant, pivotal moment when he went back to Nigeria. He understood himself better and his identity. He was able to consolidate it. And then I was just talking about my own identity and bringing that forth in the podcast or live. And then I guess I was asking how much you engage with your heritage culture. I know you go to Nigeria more often, but like, is there anything you'd like to share about that before we move forward?
Is there anything I'd like to share about going to Nigeria more often?
Or just how it helps you consolidate your identity or anything like that?
Well, you know, the lucky thing is there's a lot of Nigerians in the UK.
A lot of Indians too.
Fair enough. But I guess the reason I mentioned that is because I feel like I never really kind of lost it.
Okay.
You know, I grew up in Niger, obviously came here when I was younger. And then I'm steeped in the Nigerian culture because of the way my parents raised me and my siblings. And then somehow, I don't even know, I didn't plan this, but in university, in college, finding Nigerian, West African friends, Ghanaian friends, we're kind of like just creating that community without even kind of trying. So I think that's why I started off by saying there's a lot of Nigerians in the UK, because that community, which is surprising, because are you doing the same, Sumaira? Do you find yourself surrounded by the Indian community, the Indian friends? Because I find myself surrounded by Nigerian friends, and we're all different religions, so we don't have to be, we're just Nigerian. Like, it's like trauma bonding. We bond on the corruption of the country and the way everything is going to rubbish. Everything's going to complete shit. And we just bond over. I saw a meme online on Instagram where it's just some Nigerians sitting around a table and just being all quiet and everything. And I think the meme says, if you want to start a conversation, you just mention the president or you mention something to do with hardship and everyone just starts talking because we're all trauma bonding. So I think having that around me, even if I didn't go to Nigeria, just having that around me has allowed me to kind of embrace that sense of identity a lot more.
Yeah.
But then when I do go to Nigeria, obviously I see it more. I would say that when I go to Nigeria, it makes me unhappy. It's like a bittersweet feeling. It makes me happy because I feel like I'm home, but it also makes me unhappy because the inequality is so stark and it's just so wide. And the percentage of those that have and those that don't have, it's like this. Those that have and then those that don't have is like, I can't even put my hand around it. It's just a lot. And the inequality is high. And then it's I don't know, it's painful.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. Especially when I think about where I came from and how I started in Nigeria. I would be in the position of those that don't have.
Yeah.
The way I grew up, you know? So yeah, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking while you were talking, you were also born in Nigeria.
No, I wasn't.
You said you were born. Oh, grew up there. Sorry, my bad.
Why are you exposing the details?
I'm sorry.
You're exposing me online.
I guess the reason I was saying this is everyone's going to have their own journey, right? Like some people are born in their home countries and then they come to the host country. And I think for some people it's helpful to go back home and it really helps them consolidate their identities. And some people can find that here in the West as well. But like also like in terms of dual identity, like you can have both passports and that's okay. Whereas India doesn't allow dual citizenship. Like these kind of things make a difference. But also, I was going to say something else. Yeah, no, I just think it depends. Like for some people, it can be a real eye-opening experience. And like, had they not gone, it would have impacted maybe the trajectory in life. Whereas for other people, not necessarily. And I do think, and this is a discussion I was having with my mum about when the Indians came to this country, they were so interested in preserving their culture that when Indians now come to this country and see the way the Indians live here in the UK, they think, wow, you're so behind or backwards because the trauma of trying to hold on to their identity, you know, and whereas India has moved forward potentially, and it's interesting to see the difference when you see Indians coming now and seeing like maybe my parents' generation, and not to also forget that the millennials and whoever onwards, Gen Z, I don't know all of the terms, but the younger generation are basically making the links between intergenerational trauma and like what's happening now. Like even diabetes is connected to British colonization, you know, like why do South Asians develop diabetes more than any other ethnicity? Why? It goes back to colonization and the impact of that. And it's not only that, there's mental health and physical health impacts. And I think it's important for us to make those connections and really understand what's happening, why within our communities.
I agree with you.
That was just my thought.
I was just Googling the fact you just mentioned. You said diabetes in the South Asian community is connected to colonization. So Gemini, we just use Gemini now. What's the point of Google anymore? We might as well have a whole conversation with Gemini at this point. This is where AI is going. Yes, there is a connection between colonialism in India and the increased prevalence of diabetes, particularly type 2 diabetes in South Asian populations, both colonial disruption of food systems and increased susceptibility to famine, which may have had long-term impacts on the genetic makeup. Ooh, that's nasty. These historical factors combined with modern lifestyle changes contribute to the elevated rate of diabetes seen today. Oof.
But like nobody would have had that conversation a few years ago. They would just say, oh, it's because of the food that we eat, for example.
Yeah. You see this part, right? Lifestyle factors. So first of all, intergenerational impact. The experience of famine and undernutrition during critical periods of development can have long-lasting effects on metabolism. That's crazy. Is this well known then?
I think now it's becoming a lot more common knowledge, yeah.
That the British are the reason a lot of South Asians have diabetes.
Yeah.
But it's true. Look, India currently has one of the highest rates of diabetes globally with an estimated 77 million people affected. Wow. I would be so mad. Is diabetes treatment free in the UK?
I mean, you can be diagnosed and treated for free under the NHS, which would...
And it's not the same in the US, is it?
I don't know about healthcare in the US.
Yeah, healthcare in the US is shit.
That's what we
But
to be honest, the NHS isn't looking that good at the moment.
It's still better.
It's definitely better, but I used to... the NHS was the pride and joy of UK, do you get me? And that's not necessarily the case now.
Charlie's comments was, Zoran Mamdani, oh yeah, that guy, I like him. Only because it's challenging like the status quo. Is a Ugandan Indian. I did not know that. Who wants to be the mayor of New York? His middle name is Kwame because his dad is like that politically. Just wanted to add that since you mentioned Indians in Africa.
Yeah, and Indians also went to Polynesia, like Fiji. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you know Zon Mamdani's middle name is Kwame?
I didn't know that. No, that's an interesting fact.
But you know about the guy though, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he was born a year after me. I'm older than him. What? How? What? This is crazy. I'm old. I'm getting old.
There's people younger also doing stuff like this.
I know, but
like in the UK, Leanne Mohammed.
Yeah, but like mayor of New York is a big deal. It's a big, I mean, I'm not putting down Leanne Mohammed or anybody else that's doing incredible things. Yes, but like mayor of New York is a big deal. Have you been following his run, by the way?
Not actively, no.
I have.
Yeah, not passionately, just what I see. But yeah, very, very interesting. I enjoyed that. Moving on to the next episode, which is episode 6. That one was with Peter.
Episode 6 with Peter. Yeah. Let me find it.
It was a journey of heritage and identity with Peter.
Yes, I remember that one.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got Brazilian influence.
Yes.
Not only he is. So it's episode 5 here on YouTube, but on Spotify.
I try to keep the episode numbers the same. Okay, yeah. So moving on to Peter.
Yeah.
What are your
So
questions
again,
around?
I guess, is there anything in particular that stood out to you or any reflections from that?
I would say the main thing that when I think about the episode with Peter, once again, this was a long time ago. This is why storytelling is so important, because I feel like stories are the things I remember from these episodes, right? And the main story that I remember from the episode with Peter was the story of his ancestors and how they were taken from West Africa, taken from Nigeria, basically taken to Brazil, and how they were one of the ones that were coming back from Brazil and wanted to go back to their home and set up in the Brazilian quarters of Lagos. And I did not know, considering the fact that I grew up in Lagos, I did not know that it was called the Brazilian quarter, that particular area that he was from.
Yeah, what is it called now? Something marine is where the skyscraper.
Yeah, I don't remember actually. Oh, what? Oh my God. You're joking. No, it's a lie. It's a lie. I'm checking on Google where the Brazilian quarters are in Lagos. And it says Aguda. So what is the Brazilian quarter of Lagos? When Agudas arrived in Baja, they took up residence in the eastern part of Lagos, provided by, which was later came to be known as Popo Aguda. Okay, interesting. Okay, do you know why this is so interesting? I don't know if I should say this on the podcast.
Be
because
careful.
I'm like, but it's so interesting to me because I grew up in Aguda.
Okay.
I was so oblivious to this entire thing.
But this is why things like this is important, right?
The Brazilian quarter, a story of return. This is incredible. Sorry, what was your question?
Were there any reflections or learning that you took away or applied to yourself or others?
So just the story of these people coming back to Lagos, setting up there, being in the Brazilian quarters, him having that fascism Souza, the Souza part of his name, being the Brazilian part, and strong connection between Lagos and Brazil. And, you know, sometimes when I've forgotten when recently, but I think we also recently met someone from Brazil somewhere, I don't know, me and my friends or something. And there was also that same conversation of Yoruba people, and I think it was a taxi driver but it was in Paris. Anyways, yeah, I think we met a Brazilian taxi driver in Paris, and he was talking about Yoruba people, and he knew about the Orishas and everything. And I was like, wow, I didn't know Yoruba culture was so loved outside of Nigeria. I mean, I kind of did, but at the same time, just to see it, it's kind of cool. It gives you a little bit of pride. And I can only imagine this is how Westerners feel when, I guess, they go to other countries and they see people listening to their music. That small amount of pride is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I would say that's the main thing I remember from that particular episode.
I remember you being quite impressed when he was talking about like what was one of the easy things that you could do here in the UK for the African diaspora. And he was talking about community. And at first you were like, oh yeah, everybody says community or collectivist culture, etc. What do you mean by that? And then he said, you know, when you connect across structure, and that's when you related it to a time when you were working in Sky. And then you were like, oh yeah, it's true. Only if we connected and met people, like everybody has different resources, and then we could share those resources, because he was talking about not wanting to gatekeep and helping other people of your community and just having an open space to talk and learn. So like someone from the accounting department talks to the other department. You don't seem that impressed right now, but you were during the podcast when he was talking about it.
I'm listening.
Yeah, he was just talking about like basically the key is community, and like it's not about competition, but it's about sharing insights and knowledge. And how you can do that is by connecting with people and actually having conversations, like not gatekeeping.
I do agree with that. And it's true, because when I was working at Sky and all the Nigerians were meeting up, some of them started a startup together through meeting up, doing those meetings, and they started a business together and they went and raised money and built stuff. I definitely agree that community is powerful wherever it is we find ourselves. And
I think it's quite an easy thing to do in comparison, like when we're talking about what are the steps that we can take as individuals, I think is something that's a lot more sustainable for us and our listeners to like just have conversations with other people of the global majority. And you might get to know someone who knows someone, and you can really build your resources that way. So I felt like that was a very achievable thing to do and one of the key takeaways, in my opinion. Yeah,
I agree. I'm still pretty blown away that I don't know if that's correct though, because when Peter was talking about where he grew up, they didn't say Isaleko. I don't know if that's, I don't see, this is just bad geography in my head because I don't know if Isaleko is the same place as Aguda. But the fact that I Googled it and it said Aguda, it still was tricking my head.
That's what
I'm still like,
you're still processing it. I hear you. It's fine. This is your space to process things. You're in the hot seat.
I am in the hot seat, but at the same time, you know, having conversations with people that are listening in is also wonderful. Charlie just asked another question. What do you guys think about Zora Tana and Jeremy Corbyn's new left-wing party? Hey, Sumaira, this is your space.
Oh, this is your podcast. You talk.
I know, but like, you're very clued up on stuff like this, aren't you?
Not as much as Charlie. Charlie really puts us on the spot, you know. I would say I'm excited for it. I think it's quite refreshing. I do follow Zara Sultana.
Well, you follow her like on a personal level?
Like as in her social media, and I probably retweet a lot of her. Not necessarily now, I'm not that active on Twitter at the moment, but I follow her on social media. She's quite inspiring, and I think her and Jeremy Corbyn combined, I think it's refreshing. Whether they'll be able to do what they, you know, aspire to. Because, you know, obviously with the history of Jeremy Corbyn, like he didn't really get a chance. They really scapegoated him.
What do you mean by that? Explain that.
No. The people...
Charlie said he asked the questions that the people want to know. Sorry, go on.
No, okay. So overall, I think it's exciting and refreshing. I'm excited to see what happens, shifts. I'm a bit skeptical about like anything government and politics, like in terms of who's in power and whose voices get censored and who gets shut down. A bit like how Palestine Action, the group, is now a terrorist group, and anytime you associate, if you were to ever associate with them in the past or present, like you can literally go to prison for it now. Yeah, but to show the power, like, you know, even though there's lots of people who are fighting against it, who ends up winning. But I do resonate with a lot of what Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana say, and they articulate it in a much better way than I can. But yeah, that's my 2 pence.
No, I agree. And what I wanted to add to that was something that I was speaking to a friend about, and which is, I noticed that when I'm speaking on the podcast, I do tend to be generalistic a lot and say white people. But when I say that, I'm talking about Western governments, right? And not every white person, but the way I say it isn't the best because I'm just so used to, I need to be better with the way I communicate that particular thing. But the reason I mentioned that and what I was going to say about that was that I saw recently that even after Palestine Action had been prescribed as a terrorist organization in an attempt to shut down all of that situation, there were older white people that just, like older people, they still protest and they sat out there. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. I'm so inspired and so moved by it.
It's people who know that they have a privilege and they're using it to their, you know, advantage.
I'll be honest, I don't think I would take that risk. That's pretty crazy. Because now you can be facing up to 14 years in prison for showing support to Palestine Action after they've gone ahead and done that whole terrorist prescribing situation. So the fact that they still did it, I was just like, wow.
Yeah, there was a retired priest about 83 years old among the protesters who were arrested.
We should probably keep up to date with that because it would be so interesting to see how they handle it. I don't know. Did I want to share my thoughts? I am not as politically informed with regards to what's happening in the UK as some would think. But in my opinion, I agree with you, Sumaira, in the fact that this is an interesting development. It's something refreshing. It's something new. I have no idea what's going to happen. We'll just wait and see. Similar to Ibrahim, it's fresh. It's new. It's challenging the status quo. So let's just wait and see, you know? That's my approach to it. I like the fact that something new is happening, but I'm also very skeptical the same way you are, Sumaira, about just in terms of the power structures that currently exist. I don't think they would truly allow something truly radical to change the way things are. I feel like if you're operating within the power structures that currently exist, I hate to say it, but I feel like there is little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Room change?
Yes, there's little room for change. Yes,
or maybe it's like skeptical but hopeful That's where I kind of stand. Yeah. So in terms of moving forward to the third podcast of today's live discussion.
Third episode.
Yeah,
This is with Dr. Carter. She's a whole doctor
Dr.
now.
Coulter.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm sure if you were to Google her thesis will be available online at the University of Manchester. She might be still going through I don't know. There's a whole process once you finish your doctorate before it goes online. Yeah.
No, I can't find it. All I see is a LinkedIn.
On her LinkedIn, she probably wrote what her thesis was on when she was recruiting.
Are you saying I should show it on LinkedIn?
No, just read out her thesis title. I believe it was something to do with Black mental health.
Sorry, I'm just trying to get into LinkedIn.
But I really enjoyed, not that I enjoy all of the podcasts, I learn a lot, for real, but obviously Coulter at the time was a counseling psychologist in training and is now a counseling psychologist, and I'm a clinical psychologist. And I think both of us are from ethnically minoritized backgrounds, and we were talking a lot about the oppression like in psychology, and we were talking a lot about the conceptualization of mental health, and she spoke about it in terms of leadership in Africa. We talked about race-based trauma.
I really enjoyed everything about that episode. I just kept talking and talking. I really enjoyed it. That was one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah, it was quite engaging. Well, it was psychology. It's an interesting topic.
Oh, because you're a psychologist. Okay.
No, it's not about, I think when people like Coulter, and lots of people who come from ethnically minoritized backgrounds, when we go into psychology, we knew there was a gap because it's very Eurocentric, individualistic. But the people you see seeking support are from the global majority. So we come into psychology not to only understand it and its roots, but to also develop it so that, a bit like AI.
Ooh, now you got my attention. What do you mean?
You know how you're thinking, okay, hang on a minute, we need an ethical space for Africans or the global majority.
To build and own in AI.
Exactly.
We truly need.
No, I know. And you can definitely talk about this a lot more as your ending statements as well. But
because we're truly screwed.
Exactly. Okay. I know for sure. In a similar light, not exactly the same, we're coming in because of people of different cultures and trying to understand psychology outside of what it's known to be. I found that really engaging for that particular reason. We spoke about being judged collectively.
We did speak about that.
We recommended a few good books to read as well. By Naeem Akhtar. He was one of the authors.
That was when I reached the conclusion that all the African leaders that were doing bad to their nations are mentally unwell.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes, he diagnosed, he had two psychologists on the podcast, but Hameed was the one to diagnose.
Yes, it was me. Yeah. I did the diagnosis. Dr. Gatau did it. And that reminds me of something that is really annoying. I don't know if you noticed recently, but US basically struck a peace deal between Rwanda and Congo, right? Rwandan armies were going into Congo, and they were being a nuisance. Not more than a nuisance. They were really causing havoc in Congo. US struck a peace deal between them, and you know what the US got in return? US got access to Congo's minerals worth over $2 trillion. And this is crazy. In fact, you know what? Let me Google it up, because US peace deal with Congo and Rwanda. This is absolutely crazy. Because do you remember, it was on this same podcast that we discovered this, Sumaira, but do you remember what the GDP of Africa was?
I don't recall off by heart, no.
Because remember, we looked at it and we realized that India had more.
No, we already knew that though. But we already knew that India's GDP was far higher than the entire African continent. We spoke about this in our first Ronu Spirit live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of Congo and the Republic of Rwanda. Okay, but that's not what I wanted to show. What I wanted to show was what US gets out of it. $2 trillion. I'm trying to find it. So they signed the peace. Anyways, so the GDP of Africa is 3 trillion, right? Or 3 point something trillion. And then the GDP of India is higher than that, 3 point something trillion as well, but it's higher than Africa's one. And basically, when the US struck this deal, they were given access to Congo's minerals, $2 trillion worth of Congo's minerals. They were given access to that. And that was it was so crazy. So because I think people were aware that the US themselves were the ones encouraging Rwanda to continue the attack and supporting Rwanda doing the attacks on Congo. And then they came in and stepped in as the peacemaker and then got $2 trillion worth of minerals in return. And when you compare that to what happened, I think in 2008, there was, you know what, why am I even talking about it? Because I have it on Instagram. That's a better way to pull it up, because this is where I found out about this. Let me go to Instagram and I'll put it up. And here we go. This is where I found it. I was very upset by it, as you can tell. But it's not loading up properly. No. C post. Here it is. So after years of deadly conflicts, blah, 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 the US has basically struck the deal, but an interest. Oh, no, this is a video. We don't want to listen to and look at Trump being Trump. So we don't want to do the video. Yeah, this is easier to read. So this was basically a breakdown of the peace deal, right? And in here, in 2008, Chinese firms signed a deal with the DRC to obtain $9 billion in minerals. And do you know what they gave in return? They gave development for infrastructure development and everything like that. And there was a uproar in Western media talking about Chinese economic colonization, blah, 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 all this. And the US have now secured $2 trillion in minerals for not even offering infrastructure development. If the leader of Congo was smart and they looked at this from this perspective, it'd be like, the US basically encourage our neighbors to attack us and then say they will create peace for $2 trillion. Whereas the Chinese, they just want infrastructure development. They don't bring any war. They don't bring any problems. They don't bring any of that. I'm like, who would you rather do business with out of the two? The people that are encouraging your neighbors to attack you and then try to fleece you for money, for way more money, or the people that are actually here to build? And China's reputation in Africa doesn't include any violence, apart from, if you think about it, probably apart from the Congo minerals, actually, now that I think about it. Because when we talk about the mines, the American companies, they can get away with it because they say, oh, we don't own the mines, the Chinese own the mines. So there is a problem there too. Well, I guess I'm just thinking this out in person, but yeah.
But that's the whole idea of Ronu Spirit in a way. It's your learning journey, isn't it? But I see what you mean. Which of the better, exactly.
Which of the lesser evils would you rather deal with, basically? I'm not saying everything China's doing is great, but I'm just saying if you compare what China's doing to what the West usually does in Africa, which evil are you dealing with? And another thing that pissed me off about this entire peace deal that the US organized is that, is Rwanda not smart? Because why is it that they allow the US to come in and say, oh, we're going to create peace, and in return we want $2 trillion of Congo's minerals? But couldn't Rwanda have struck that deal with Congo themselves? That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, couldn't they have said, okay, fine, we are bullies and we're here to bully you, but we'll leave you alone for $2 trillion worth of investments in your minerals? I don't understand why we had to get, this kind of stuff just annoys me. I just think, why did we have to get the West involved, you know? That's just my thought process around that. Sorry, I went on a completely different tangent.
I think I can hear your frustrations for sure. But they have a way, don't they? In terms of nothing is happening without them in a way. And it's probably a lot more complicated and intricate. But yeah, is that something that was connected to Dr. Coulter's podcast in a way?
I'm sorry, I kind of took it in a completely different direction.
I guess we did speak about the leaders of Africa and you diagnosed them. And then from there, you kind of were like, look at what's happening. And then the frustrations around that, rightly. But I mean, this is our second live. Do you have any reflections on like these lives and continuing and engagement from your audiences?
My reflections are around the fact that at some point I need to figure out the best way to operate this whole YouTube thing. Because right now I have a lot going on at the same time. I'm working on a bunch of different things and haven't been able to really capitalize or focus on it properly, right? So I need to figure it out and start taking it to the next level. I just don't know when I'm going to have the time to do that. That's the main thing that's bugging me about it. Yeah.
Do you think if there's any listeners who are keen or interested in engaging or sharing their resources, that's something that you would be keen to hear about?
Of course. That's why we do this live, because we want to talk with the people, them, and just speak to them and like have a conversation. Maybe even invite some people onto the live and they share their thoughts as well. You know?
Yeah, that would be really good, actually. Yeah, we have so many more episodes that we've recorded.
Yes.
There's a few that I wasn't part of, so I'm really interested. And
it'll be interesting to see how that goes as well.
Exactly, because then obviously I'm coming from an outsider's perspective, listening in. Do you want to name some people
that we have coming up?
We have coming up, like in terms of releasing podcasts, there's quite a few exciting guests.
No, let's just surprise the
You want to
people then and see
surprise
what
them?
happens.
You don't.
Let's just surprise people and put them out and just see what happens and see how the conversation evolves. Because I feel like with YouTube, what I'm doing is different from what I used to do, right? When I look at the content that I'm putting out right now, it's a podcast, it's conversations, it's different from what I usually do, which is a basic Nigerian history, which is the whole storytelling angle and providing information in a fun and engaging way. I'm still trying to do that, but it's slightly different. So I'm figuring it out. And it's hard to figure it out when you have a lot going on as well and you don't have the full time to really explore it. But it's something that I'm looking forward to doing as I keep going. I'm just going to keep going and just see what happens.
Sounds good. I don't know how many people we actually have on the live. I think on Instagram there was one. And I don't know if you can see on YouTube if there's anybody.
No, I can see on my side. People join and leave and join and leave. And it's just there. Also, I should mention on Instagram, they can't really see my face properly. They can't really see us properly.
No, the whole screen comes up on my phone.
You're joking?
Yeah, no, it comes up. Even my name comes up.
You are joking. You are kidding me. Yes, you are. You're throwing in jests. Hold on. Sorry. Let me check. Oh, this would be cool. The whole thing doesn't come up.
It does.
Sumaira.
It does.
Look, it looks like this. Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly. So your whole face does show up.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Are there any final comments or reflections from anybody engaging in the live or any constructive criticism? Please share now.
Or forever hold your peace.
Or hold your peace until the next live.
The live is after every 3 episodes, we'll be doing something like that. We'll just keep going and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And as always, thank you to the people who have engaged, Julia and Charlie.
Charlie, I don't know who Charlie is or how Charlie keeps knowing when we're live, but it's so cool. I appreciate it. I truly appreciate it.
I don't know if Charlie's there, and does Charlie follow your Instagram?
I feel like Charlie's left now, but
because I don't think you advertised it on YouTube per se. I think it was just on Instagram.
I did put it on YouTube.
Did you put it on? Okay.
I put a little community post. One thing I did want to mention before we leave is the importance of us building in AI. Is to not letting this AI, because how do I emphasize this without seeming like I'm just talking about hype? Basically, the inequality gap between African nations and the West is amplified by technology, right? We are currently trying to catch up, but we're having issues like power issues on our nations where we have blackouts and that affects stuff, data issues, access to technology, access to information. All of these things are things that we're currently trying to deal with because of, inequality. Now, it's already hard for us as it is. We don't have our own data centers, so Africa doesn't have data sovereignty. What does that mean? That means that all the data that we have stored is stored on other people's servers, stored on Google's server, which belongs to America, AWS, Microsoft Azure, that type of thing. We don't have our own data sovereignty as nations, as a continent. And this is an issue that already exists, but people seem to be okay with it. Now, my problem is that it's going to get a lot worse with AI. So those little inequality things they weren't little, but the inequality that was there already with regards to power and data and all of that is going to get a lot worse with AI. When AI is introduced, those who have access to power and data are going to speed ahead, and we are going to get even further left behind. And they're going to speed ahead, they'll own AI products and own AI stuff, and we will just be consumers. And AI can make you a hyper consumer or hyper creator, and we will just be hyper consumers. And it won't benefit us, because we're not the ones building it. There will be a lot of bias and a lot of stuff in there that is not helpful for us. And the world is going to look more and more like a place that isn't built for us. And we're going to need to more change who we are in order to fit in. So that's the way I see it playing out. And I think it's very important. And I just wanted to say that before we end it.
Absolutely. No.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
No problem. Charlie says, I subscribe and mang the bell. That's how I know when you go live. Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. I'm going to start saying that at the end of the podcast episodes. Please subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell so that you know when we go live. Much appreciated. Anything you want to say, Sumaira, before I end it?
No, I think it was good that we had the opportunity to kind of focus on all 3 podcasts. I don't think that was something we could do in our previous live, but it's, really good conversation.
Yeah, as we do more of these things, we will improve on the live. Dedicated video to AI is the future and what you think of it. Oh, I might do that, I might actually have an AI person come on and we just nerd out on AI. And Sumaira, you can try to play the human aspects of it.
Let's see what's
Yeah.
happening, everyone. Good evening.
Oh, we're just leaving.
Yeah. Please join
Anyways.
us in our next live for
Yes. Join us in our next live. We do a live after every 3 episodes is released. We do a live.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julio. Appreciate it. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.